The Last of Us has taken the world by storm. The video game was immensely popular, and when HBO picked up the television rights and started the series, it took on a whole new life. Some have even said that episode 3 of the series is HBO's magnum opus. If you haven't seen the 3rd episode yet, take my word for it. You will need tissues and about an hour of quiet time after for recovery. Seriously, guys, tissues.
Why are there already pills in the bottle?
Enough to kill a horse. This isn't the tragic suicide at the end of the play. I'm old. I'm satisfied.
It's not just the incredible writing and characters that make this show great. The Last of Us also tackles a lot of real-world issues, and like any good media, it reshapes them. One such issue is the fictional Fedra, the Federal Disaster Response Agency. This is based on real-life FEMA. From the get-go, Fedra appears to be overly aggressive, but we don't get a ton of information about them yet. By episode 3, we've learned that Fedra has taken over the government and declared martial law. If you want to hear more about the parallels between Fedra and FEMA and how evil Fedra actually is, keep watching. Watch at your own risk though. There will be spoilers ahead for all of the available episodes of The Last of Us. There will also be some trigger warnings for this video. Mass executions and violence against women in general. If any of these topics are too much for you right now, please click off the video. We will see you in another video.
Where is she?
We lost half our crew crossing the country. I had 5 men whose only job was to protect me. I still almost got killed. How'd you do it?
It was all her. She fought like hell to get here.
She would have been dead on day 1. You are the one person I never wanted to be in debt to. But I owe you. We all owe you.
Just take me to her.
The beginning of this series has a few one-off lines about Fedra. Ellie complains about the lack of education under their rule and mentions that she learned how to shoot a gun with them, but not much else. Imagine your public school not teaching history or math, but you can go into a gym and practice shooting guns. Wild. Someone else jokes that Fedra are all These one-offs are good enough to remind us that this organization may have some questionable morals. In fact, in the pilot, we see Fedra agents threatening Joel, Tommy, and Sarah without knowing whether or not they are infected. Sarah is actually killed by a Fedra agent, and later on in the series, Ellie and Joel are threatened again by other agents. For the most part, however, they remain pretty invisible. With episode 5, we finally learn some new horrific information about how, content warning, please skip ahead to avoid mention of the aforementioned triggers. Apparently, Fedra agents had been using their power to and kill people in Kansas City. They also asked civilians to report their neighbors, friends, and family members for bad behavior, which would lead to their executions. Like most good apocalyptic stories, The Last of Us serves as a warning in this way. Once all societal structures collapse, as they would during a zombie-like apocalypse, it paves the way for more oppressive and violent organizations to rise to power. Some other similar stories don't exactly explore this theme. Lots of times we see zombie stories in which all of society has collapsed.
How long till she's torn apart by infected or murdered by raiders? Because she lives in a broken world that you could have saved.
Maybe. But it isn't for you to decide.
Or you. So what would she decide, huh?
But they are being led by survivors in roaming camps. This isn't quite realistic. Think of any corrupt politician. If given the chance, any of them would seize power if given the chance by a world-shattering event. Fedra also isn't portrayed as pure evil all of the time, adding a layer of realism. At the beginning of the disaster, though they were acting quite aggressively, their goals at that time were not to take over. It's also implied that Kansas City is a terrible place to be, but most other major cities do not suffer the same horrors that are occurring there. So, is Fedra a necessary evil? If they hadn't risen up and begun executing the infected right away, what would have happened? What about the Fireflies? The Fireflies are a rebel group that is set on overthrowing Fedra. This brings up another interesting point. In the case of a global disaster like this, we've already discussed how this type of event leads to the perfect set of circumstances for a coup by the military or other similar organization. But what would happen if that organization were overthrown by another during the apocalypse? Katniss. That's what the Fireflies want to do, of course. But is this better? Let's talk about a similar situation in a different story. The Hunger Games. Spoilers ahead for the whole series. The Capitol, along with President Snow, are the post-apocalyptic governing force in this case. The protagonists are just regular citizens, keeping their heads down, but they are put into a situation where they must rebel or be killed. As the story progresses, Katniss, our hero, meets an underground group that wants to overthrow the president and the Capitol. She is on board for the most part, wanting to see Snow and the Capitol overthrown, but the new leader proves herself to be just as corrupt as Snow. Katniss ends up killing the new leader, preventing a second uprising that would not solve any problems for the people. Snow and the Capitol are taken down at the end, but the point here is that Katniss recognized the rising power as the more dangerous power. Could this play out similarly with the Fireflies? Perhaps the Fireflies will end up being just as bad, if not worse, than Fedra. The Fireflies have factions all over the country and identify themselves with the slogan, "Look for the light." Get it? Fireflies? Okay. In the video game, we do see how these things play out. Again, spoilers for the events of the video game. The Fireflies are able to mostly liberate all of the quarantine zones that Fedra had been looking after. The two groups end up disbanding each other. The game gives the player a half answer to the question, which organization is to be trusted and which one will overcome the other? The answer to both is, well, neither. While some people may not like this grayscale answer, preferring a more black and white parallel.
Are you alone? And, how did you get this? There's gonna be a little tickle right here.
But honestly, we think that this is the most realistic story that would have come about from this situation. But what does that mean for the series? After all, we have seen the series take a lot of creative liberties from the plot of the game, which is to be expected, of course. When you switch from one medium to another to tell the same story, some things will have to change. Think about any book that has been adapted into a movie. The stories are similar, of course, but writing a book and writing a script are two very different processes. The same can be said of adapting a game to a series. HBO has the advantage of live actors, a huge budget, and writers who know how to write for a television series. It's very possible, maybe even probable, that the ending of the story will change. At this time, we do not yet know if the ending will change or how. But if the ending is different, would you want to see the Fireflies overthrow Fedra? Or maybe you hate the Fireflies and want Fedra to stay in power for some reason. Nothing we can do now except wait. What do you guys think? What do you think of Fedra? Fedra in the show versus in the game. What does the storyline of Fedra teach us? We would love to hear your thoughts below. Thank you for watching, and please, if you haven't yet, like our video and subscribe to the channel. We will see you all in the next video, and don't forget to tune in to The Last of Us on HBO on Sundays.